We're back on the Ringer NFL show. Ruiz, what do you got? What's your lesson?
My lesson is that the Ravens are a poorly coached team right now. Like, they came into this game leading the NFL in penalties and penalty yardage, and then they committed 12 more penalties and basically lost the game because of the penalties. They've been busting coverages on the defensive side of the ball all season long, and they allowed, you knew what the Steelers were going to come in and try to do, and they still allowed the Steelers to complete a couple deep balls and stay in this football game. There were fumbles, there were bad penalties, there were missed throws by Lamar on out of structured plays where it didn't look like he was on the same page with his receiver. There were missed kicks by Justin Tucker, who, I mean, it's not even watch at this point. He's washed up. Like, I don't know another way to say it. It pains me. It hurts my heart to see the GOAT go out like this, but he's not helpful for that football team right now. But these are all the common symptoms of their losses over the years, these inexplicable losses, which they keep on stacking. You heard Lamar Jackson say it after the game. He seemed so frustrated. He's like, we just keep giving these games away. He included the AFC title game, which I totally agree with. I thought they were the better team in that game, and they kind of just played their C game, which tends to happen with this team. It feels like it happens with them more often than any other team. And to me, that's a sign of bad coaching. I know we give Harbaugh the benefit of the doubt, and I do think he's a good coach, but it's been a while since they've, performed solidly in these games year after year after year. It just doesn't happen anymore. And I mean, we talk about Lamar's failure to win in the playoffs, but what about Harbaugh's failure to win in the playoffs? Like, he is losing those upset games too, and he's the coach. He's supposed to get this team ready to play, and when they lose, it seems like they come out flat and they are not ready to play, and they lose to an opponent that they're better than usually. Yeah,
4 losses now for the Ravens. They've all felt the same, to your point. They lose by a combined 17 points. They still haven't lost a game, I don't think, by more than one possession this entire season. Yet this is why those losses earlier to the Raiders and the Browns mattered, because now you got 4 losses here, and the Bills are 9-2 and the Chiefs are 9-1. And now this Ravens team, which I'm with you, could potentially be the best team in the NFL. We've said that it stretches, I think, through the first 11 weeks, but now you're going to have to go on the road potentially 2 times, maybe 3 times. I mean, right now they're not in first place. I think they're still the favorites in the AFC North if you look at FanDuel and the betting markets, but you're going to have to go on the road 2 or 3 times. And I'm with you. Like, Diante, my thought watching this Ravens game was like, are they capable of stringing together 4 games where they don't have one of these games in the middle there and lose it? Because that's what it's going to take to win a Super Bowl. You're going to have to win wild card round, divisional round, championship round, and Super Bowl against all good opponents, and not have these games where, to Ruiz's point, you're having penalties, you're having 3 turnovers, you're having 2 missed field goals, 80 yards of penalties, like you said. Like, I don't know that I trust them to be capable of doing that right now, Diante.
I definitely don't trust them to do that right now. And everything that we saw on Sunday is exactly the reason why this team will probably flame out in the postseason again. And it really doesn't have as much to do with Lamar Jackson, even though I thought that he played a pretty messy game. I think that he was pressing for things down the field when there were opportunities maybe to escape early. And I think that part of that is just him trying to adhere to what the offensive system is. And it's worked more often than not. And I think that in the preview show, one of the things we pointed out was this game and what this team ultimately becomes against the best teams in the NFL really has little to do with Lamar and everything to do with the supporting cast and how they show up against the best teams. And to Steven's point, immediately fumble on the first snap, and that. And as soon as it happens,
didn't you? Here we go.
As soon as it happens, you shrug your shoulders and you're like, oh, that Ravens team showed up today. Okay, I guess that they're going to be in a dogfight against a team they're more talented than all the way to the end. You get the missed kicks. You have all the inopportune penalties. You have all the battling back and forth and the jawing and the after the play stuff. And it's like, I understand that this is a physical rivalry. I'm not trying to take away from that. But you guys are playing like crap, and this team relishes. The team we're playing against relishes in this. That's who they want to be, and if they can get you to play that game, it's advantage Pittsburgh. And they just hung around just long enough, banking on the fact that Baltimore would make the key mistakes it needed for Pittsburgh to be able to take advantage of, and that's exactly what happened. And now you're in a position where an unlucky play like Peyton Wilson basically just having the ball bounce into his gut on that jump ball to Justice Hill.
Was that lucky or was that a great play? I couldn't decide.
It's a great play, but it was unlucky for Baltimore.
That's what, it's more of an unlucky
okay,
turnover, because there's nothing wrong with the play outside of just the outcome for Baltimore, right? But now that play has effectively ended your chances to win the football game because you gave this team a time to burn the clock, and they're already in field goal or near field goal territory. You can't win football games this way against the best teams in the NFL. And I wish that I could square the version of Baltimore that we saw this week and the one we saw when they played Las Vegas earlier this year with the one that just curb stomped Buffalo from wire to wire. And the team, I don't know which of these teams we're ever going to get on a weekly basis. And it's frustrating me to no end. And to your point, Sheil, it's not just playing road playoff games. They've basically positioned themselves to where you're going to have to see Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen on the road right now, based on the way that things are going. And that's not where you want to be, no matter how talented of a football team you are.
Why are we I don't get why people are hesitant to just say it's bad. It's a poorly coached team though. It seems like the coaching never gets the blame. And by the way, right now, the Seahawks have a better defense by EPA with Mike McDonald than the Ravens do.
And we know that's a bad
makes
defense.
No sense with personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is it's a fair question. It's a tough question because even in some of those playoff losses, it's felt like a little bit of bad luck here and there. Before we had Greg Roman to push around, but now I think most people think the offensive coordinator is good. And I could also make the case, shouldn't we have expected this team to take a little bit of a step back this year? When you lose a defensive coordinator like Mike McDonald, it's very hard to replace somebody like that. You had 3 new offensive linemen, and you haven't lost a game by more than 1 possession. So it's one of those is the coaching screwing them up, or would they not even be in some of these situations if the coaching wasn't good?
No, they would be because they have Lamar Jackson. No, they.
Okay.
I'm very confident in saying they would be in these games.
Okay, yeah, it's a fair question for them. And then on the other side, speaking of coaching, I was thinking this might be Mike Tomlin's finest work. Yes. Listen, I've said before, put the 2019 season on the Hall of Fame plaque. When you go 8-8 with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges starting 14 games, I don't need to know anything else about you as a coach. I trust you with everything. You are a good coach. But this team is 8-2 right now. They have a plus 71 point differential, which is better than the Ravens, by the way. So it's not like they're just winning a bunch of close games. They've blown some teams out. They've beaten the Ravens now. They've beaten the Broncos now. They've beaten the Chargers now. They're paying their quarterbacks nothing. They made a mid-season quarterback change. They might not be going to the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, but I do think their defense actually does deserve some credit for what they did today. If you just look at it statistically, this was the Ravens' worst offensive performance of the season. Most weeks, they're looking like a juggernaut. I think we said last week, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' offense specifically hadn't had a bad game, and I don't think this one was all on Lamar at any rate, but the offense did not have a good game for the Ravens today, and the Steelers, they deserve credit for that as well. So Diante, it's I'm running out of words to say about Mike Tomlin. I think he's running away with the Coach of the Year award. And every week where I say, all right, it's going to catch up to him. You can't just win like this messy nonsense, throw in a couple go balls and your defense plays well and maybe something on special teams. And then they win again, and then they win again, and then they win again.
And what the craziest part of it is that they might control their own destiny the rest of the way. They've got Kansas City
right now, in the
Day.
division.
They see the Browns twice. They see the Bengals twice. Those are both teams that I think are vulnerable enough for a team like Pittsburgh to be able to win 3 out of 4 of those or split them. They're going to see the Ravens, which is basically going to be for the AFC North title when they see them on December 21st. We could be talking about this team going into Christmas Day weekend as potentially the 2 seed in the AFC. And we know this is not the second best team in the AFC. So the fact that they're even in this conversation speaks to how well Mike Tomlin manages games. I mean, again, we talked about it last week when they were closing out the Commanders game. And I think the same thing was true of this week, where you get to the fourth quarter and you could just see Baltimore pushing as hard as they could to get yardage. And Pittsburgh has just done such a great job of closing games offensively, getting the first downs that they need, getting the stops on third downs that they need, forcing a key turnover. It's been that way for the last month, especially for the last month plus. When they're caught in these uncomfortable situations, they always seem to come out on top of them. And so much of that, I think, is just their level of preparation and how they execute.
Yeah, I was just happy that Russell Wilson threw his dumb interception in the end zone where he just lofted it up. And then that Justin Fields came in and almost blew that
Slid a half-yard shirt.
God.
Yeah.
so we don't like over credit the quarterbacks for turning things around. No, this is like they still have mediocre quarterback play. They just have great coaching, elite coaching, and a very good defense, and that's why they're winning all these games. Like Russell Wilson wasn't great in this game. I don't think. Like you saw,
they didn't score a touchdown. Yeah,
no,
I don't. Yeah.
And how many? We got to start calling those a Tomlin. How many games have they won without scoring a touchdown? I think did they win the first game of the year without scoring?
They won the Falcons game without scoring a touchdown.
They beat the Chiefs in the playoffs without scoring a touchdown that one year. We have to rename those two after Tomlin. But yeah,
Tomlin's special.
They are really working around these quarterbacks, and they like Arthur Smith. He deserves credit too. They have the 16th ranked offense by EPA per play right now, with mediocre quarterback play, a running game that hasn't been overly affected, at least not early on in the year. A receiving, they like shadow bench George Pickens earlier in the year. Like there have been issues with this offense, and they're kind of just working around them and keeping this thing together at 8-2. It's really fascinating to watch how they've done it.
Mike Williams still hasn't started yet. He still hasn't started. Like exactly. They traded for a guy. They traded for a veteran who's effectively a non-factor right now, and it bothers them none because of how well they're able to execute in these games.
I did like that idea of bringing Justin Fields in there for a clock eating, just like don't fumble the ball. But yeah, I thought that was, I mean, it won. They did pick up the first down and won the game there. So I thought that was a nice little wrinkle that they had there.